Welcome back. The Fair and Equitable Society says its decision to temporarily withdraw its case against government was informed by a response from the Presidency and consultations with its legal team. The NGO brought a case against security cluster ministers and the President, claiming law enforcement officers were being heavy-handed against citizens who violate COVID-19 regulations. To discuss this further, we're now joined by the Director of Legal at the Fair and Equitable Society, Samantha Sarjoo. Samantha, thanks very much. Good to have you here on the program.
Good morning, Leah. Thanks for having me.
All right, let's get a bit more clarity from you. What is it that made you withdraw the case against government?
The exact reason for our withdrawal had to do with the people and other organizations who approached us once they had heard about our case. We realized that because of the importance and the seriousness of the case, we needed to add those people perhaps in an institution of the papers. Okay, so
perhaps you can explain that a little bit better to us, because what we're saying is that you know, basically government saying that you don't have enough against them to go ahead with this case. That is not what you're saying, so perhaps you can give us a little bit more detail.
No problem. So we actually do have a very strong case for this, because of the brutality and the force that has been used to date. What essentially happened was that when the papers were first leaked, people approached us to agree and also advise us of situations that they had encountered with the police and the army. So because we wanted to strengthen an already strong case, we decided to withdraw to possibly add them in a reinstitution of the papers.
Okay, so let's kind of look at a little bit of the evidence that you're relying on to put this case together. Obviously, there have been a lot of videos. We've seen videos circulating on social media. Are those the things that you're using? But do you also have testimonials from witnesses that you've managed to gather?
So we were essentially using the videos on social media and reports in the media and have now secured testimonials.
All right, so that's the kind of evidence that you've managed to get together. But I mean, talk to us about some of the instances. I mean, I'm reading of some, in fact, one of the, and I don't even think it's a police officer, I think it's a security guard, together with the police officer, but only the security guard is going to be appearing in court for one death that happened at the beginning of the lockdown, and he should be appearing tomorrow for a formal bail application. Talk to us about some of the cases. This is due to the death of somebody at a tavern because the police went in and apparently shot. So talk to us about some of the stories that you have heard of.
I think the reason for our case is because of how brutal and how much force is actually being used in some of these instances. We have seen rubber bullets being shot at citizens being assaulted. There's even a video of someone being assaulted in their yard. So we're just of the opinion that the regulations don't allow for this type of behavior, and therefore the ministers as well as the president must be held accountable to what exactly the law was created for and these empowering provisions.
According to some official figures that have been released and some stats that have come out, basically saying that there have been 8 recorded deaths so far at the hands of police. They're saying there's 2 Gauteng, 2 KwaZulu-Natal, 2 in the Western Cape, and I'm not too sure where the other cases may be. But these are some of the numbers that I'm getting through here. But perhaps you have other numbers and you're looking at that. So 8 is what I'm looking at. Are those the numbers that you have as well?
Yes, confirmed. Right now we have 8, but we are not only fighting for people who've been killed. We find it very interesting that there's been much humiliation and assault in carrying out these regulations too, which we think needs to be addressed.
You talk about humiliation, but another case that I'm looking at here, there's some other, the stats indicating that there were 11 cases of discharging an official firearm. These are IPID stats that I am reading right now. 14 cases of torture, assault, and corruption. And there is also a case of rape by a police official.
Yeah, so the things that have been happening are just unfounded and illegal, and therefore we must hold the ministers of these organizations accountable for the behavior of their employees.
I mean, just in terms of a response from perhaps a department, from the police, in terms of the behavior, have you had any response at all?
Yes, we actually received replying affidavits from the minister. All the respondents in the initial papers have responded, but we are again looking to reinstitute our papers, and we'll see what the communication is going forward.
How many cases are you looking at? The fact that you're saying you're adding on cases onto what you were initially going to go forward with, how many are you looking at right now?
I can't give you an exact number right now, Leanne, because of how quickly we're getting people approach us.
Okay, so this is an ongoing thing. When are you expected?
Exactly.
When are you expecting to try and get this case together and push forward with it?
Because of the urgency of the matter and just how many people are at risk if the police and army continue to behave in this manner, we are planning to do so within this week, if not this week, then early next week.
Okay, so that's the time frame on this. Just a little bit of an update on that story where we spoke about a police officer who, there is a case of an alleged rape by a police official. This story, what I'm hearing is that this happened before the lockdown. It's not necessarily linked to the lockdown. Is that the information that you have as well?
That's the information we've received, but as you can imagine, we're doing our more research to try and get hold of anyone who has more information on the ground.
People have obviously been urged to report any form of police brutality and that this is not being tolerated at a time like this. But from what you're hearing, are people reporting it? How are they feeling about the police and their behavior at this time during the lockdown?
I think it's quite unfortunate that a few cases have caused a lot of fear within the citizens of South Africa when it comes to the police and the army. But I think the general feel is that people are looking for more protection than they're currently receiving. I must admit that, sorry, just give me a second. I'm watching your video below. Sorry.
No problem.
So what I wanted to mention was that people on the ground are a little bit afraid of the police and the army, but have been reporting cases. There have been multiple reports. The problem with the reporting is that it's after the fact, and the investigations that come from those are after the fact and don't really protect any of the citizens going forward in their interactions with the army and police.
Yeah. You know, some people on social media were arguing that, you know, some of the things that they've been forced to do, like roll on the ground or do frog jumps, is really nothing compared to actually going to jail. If in your opinion, how would you have preferred the authorities to actually deal with some of these people?
In our opinion, it doesn't make sense to enforce the law by breaking the law. And because of the regulations and the empowering provisions, the police and the army are meant only to arrest and possibly fine citizens. So we are looking at perhaps a type of situation that occurred during the Soccer World Cup in 2010, where a number of special courts were opened because of the special circumstances for people who had contravened any laws at the time. So we suggest that perhaps special courts be opened to assist with the numbers of people who have contravened, but that they be arrested and then released on a fine.
Yeah. You know, when we look at some of the crime stats that have actually been released over this time, they've been quite incredible, actually, to see what a drop it has been in the behavior of South Africans through this period. Obviously, there's a lockdown, so that, of course, gets people to have to stay home as opposed to going out and committing various crimes. And no doubt the presence of the police and the army has had a lot to do with that as well. So besides highlighting some of the police brutality and the brutality that you've been hearing of, is there anything positive that you feel has come out of the police being more visible and being on the ground?
I think we must start off by saying that the president has shown tremendous leadership at this time, and that most of the decisions that have been made have been for the protection of our citizens. The positive thing is that where the police have acted in terms of the regulations and the empowering provisions, we have seen people dealt with respect, as well as just brought to book in terms of not contravening these regulations and doing what is safe for citizens across the country.
Yeah, yeah, indeed. I mean, and I think that that is an important point to highlight, is treating people with respect. But there are people that do not respect police officers, that do not respect the arm of the law, and unfortunately go against that. And that, of course, needs to be condemned in the strongest possible way, because in order to beat this coronavirus, we need to behave and we need to look after ourselves as well and not basically be schooled. But the point of the matter is that any form of violence is unacceptable, and I think that that's what you are trying to emphasize here, that having 8 people dying at the hands of police officers is unacceptable. 38 different cases opened against them, and this is what you, in essence, are against.
Yes. I think we must note that it's the coronavirus we're trying to beat and not the citizens of South Africa. So yeah, it's very important that we respect the police and the army, but that they respect us too.
All right, we leave it there, Samantha. Thanks so much for talking to us here. So we'll keep watching, seeing how you're doing. I know that you said by this week, latest next week, you'd like to see something coming out of this case, and again, putting it forward. So we'll keep an eye for that. Samantha Sarjoo is the Director of Legal at Fair and Equitable Society, talking to us about their case against government. Thanks again.
Thank you, Leanne.